start in a couple of minutes. Now, I know that. Are you okay?
My dogs, I have to,
Oh, the dogs. We have dogs, we have cats, we have all kinds of animals here. How about you, Charlene? How are you doing?
I'm doing.
You're doing. Does your cat like turkey?
She doesn't get people food.
There's
Yes.
Francine.
She probably would, but I don't feed her people food.
Well, my cat usually rejects any kind of, people food. Let me just take, we have here niece and Charlene. Okay, but the turkey, my son tried to give her a little turkey and she actually took a little bit. She, just a little bit. Anyway, so I went over the two caduceus, and most of it is the same, but there are some parts that are a little different. And a lot of the words in the caduceus and the phrases are probably well known to you. If you've ever attended services or if you attend service on a fairly regular basis, you may not know the melody for all the things, but you'll know how to read them. Janice is connecting to audio. Good. Hi, Janice. So I just threw the turkey carcass out yesterday. We had 16-pound turkey and 12 people and plenty of food. All right. So I'll just wait another minute or two. All right. So we were studying the Shema, and a lot of you get very upset with the Shema. So the one that we studied was the silent Shema. Right. No, the sounded one with the right. So now I'm going to show you what happens when these are the fighting twins, when there's two of them, just like twins or brother and sister, and you need to separate them. So that's what I gave you. And it's really pretty simple. It sounds like this would be something really difficult, but it's really very simple when you separate them. So the first thing that I want to do before we do any discussion is let's take a look at what I sent you with the little worksheet on the silent and the sounded Shema. Okay, so the sounded one at the beginning has a sound of like I can't think of anything. We'll see examples here. So this says each word in this list has a double Shema. Double Shema means that there are two letters that have a Shema under them. That's all it means. Okay, so they divided the words to make it easier to understand a concept into two syllables. So the first syllable is naf, and that one is silent. You don't say, all you hear is the letter fe, naf. Okay, now the second one makes a sound of shecha, nafshecha. Okay, which means your soul. That's in V'ahavta, v'chol nafshecha, or v'chol levavcha. So when you look at the word, you have to split it. That's what your eye has to do. I said, I've got two of them and they're fighting. One is silent. The first is the quiet twin. The second one is the boisterous one, is the noisy twin. So if you remember it that way, I don't care. You have the quiet twin, doesn't say anything. And the second one is a noisy one. So you have the word, when you put it together, is nafshecha. Nefesh is soul, and nafshecha means your soul. You should love V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol v'avcha b'chol nafshecha, and with all your heart and all your soul. And you know the song, heart and soul, do. Okay, nafshecha. So that's it. So we actually split the word into the syllables. All right, so the next one is yilmedu. So the first syllable is yil. The lamed is silent. You don't hear anything. All you hear is the lamed sound, yil. And then the mem, the second one, here's a second noisy twin, medu. Yil medu. Okay, and when we get off or some other time, you can actually make them into two syllables. Okay, the first one is the quiet, the second one is the noisy. And then the third one is yis. All you hear is the sin, yis. Yismechu hashamayim. Okay, samach means to be happy, like when you go to a simcha, simchat Torah. Okay, so sin mem chet means to be happy, rejoice. So yismechu hashamayim, the heavens will rejoice. Yismechu hashamayim, yismechu. Okay, so it's yismechu. So when they say, oh, silent and sound the shva, I mean, the topic, it looks so ominous, but like I said, it's really pretty easy. You divide it into syllables. The first one is quiet, no sound. The second one is the me, cho. Now the fourth one is tish, meru, tish, meru. Now shomer, the shomer, goyechad. So shomer, what is a shomer? Someone who is shomer Shabbat. Shomer Shabbat. If the store is shomer Shabbat because the owner observes Sabbath, it's closed on Saturday.
So it's observant?
It's guard or observe. And the root is shomer. And they have the Shomer Society are the Jewish police in New York. The Shomer, they have the Irish police and the Jewish police. Shomer. Shomer. So Tish, meru. Now 5 is, okay, where would you break it? I'm going to ask the question. And number 5, under what letter is the silent shva?
Hey.
Thay, right. When you see the 2 in a row, a shva and then another shva, the rule is the first one is always quiet, the second one makes the sound. So under the face, so I have naf, shechem, naf, shechem. That means your nefesh, plural, your souls. Okay, because nefesh is soul. Naf, shechem. Okay, so I broke it up into 2 syllables, naf and then shechem. Okay, the 6. Where would I break that word up?
Tish.
Right, so you have the first syllable has 1 shva, and then the next syllable, and it goes along with the rule that at the beginning of a syllable is when the shva is sounded. Okay, it's like L'olam, there's a good example. L'olam. L'olam va'ed, forever and ever. So under the lamed is a shva, right? We say that all the time. L'olam va'ed. So this word is tish ma'u. Tish ma'u. What's the root here? The root is in the middle. It's 3 letters.
The Shema?
Shema. Yeah. So the first, the tav indicates the future tense, and the u is a plural. Tishma'u means you will hear, you will listen, like you will listen and you will obey, you will listen. And there's a Shema sitting right in the middle, right there for you. So it'd be tish, then I separate, that's the first syllable, it's quiet. The second one, ma'u, tish ma'u. You see what I'm doing? How I'm dividing it? Charlene, you see that? Good. Everybody's good with that, Janice? Everybody understand? Okay, good. So the next one, where am I going to break the word? Remember, if you have the 2 shvas in next to each other, you have to put the line, like an invisible line down between them.
Tease.
Tease, right, tis.
Tease.
So it's tease, and the Zion has no sound from the shva. It's silent. That's a silent shva. Tis karu. Tis karu. What is the root?
Zachor.
Zachor. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekodsho. Remember the Sabbath day to make it holy, to sanctify, right? Zachor. Okay. And people who want to say like about the Holocaust, remember, don't forget, never forget, Zachor. Tis karu. Again, that vav at the end, it shows to me it's plural. the top at the beginning. I know that the future tense, tis karu. You will remember. And using the future tense is also like a command. You will remember. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they do the same thing in German. I only studied German a little bit, and I made my teacher very unhappy. This was in Queens College. The reason I made him unhappy is because I said everything with a Yiddish accent. And he said, I came from California and you're going to drive me right back there. I got an A in the class, but I made him sweat. I could translate. It was German for translation. And I figured, well, I'll take it just to see what it's like. So I did well in it because when I sounded the things out to myself, I could hear that it was Yiddish, just about. But it's like in German, Güppel, and I said Güppel, and the poor man was really exasperated. Obviously, he was not Jewish. Okay, number 8. Where's the separation? Where is the silent shva? Under what letter?
The Samach.
Samech. Okay. So it's chas
Yes.
decha. Chas decha. What does, we have the expression chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Those are all good quality. Chen. What does that mean? Chen v'chesed. Remember we talked about the Hasidim, and this is where they get their name from. Chesed. Chesed means compassion.
Right.
So chas decha, cha on the end, like you will meet somebody, you want to say to God, what's your name? Mashimcha. Cha on the end is your. So chas decha means your compassion. Who do you think this is addressed to? That word chas decha. God. God, because it's in a prayer and you're thanking God for having compassion on us, poor souls that we are. All right, so let's go through these words. Okay, is there somebody that can give me, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 8. Each one will take 2. Okay, who wants to take 1 and 2? I just want you to say it. You don't have to tell me what it means. Somebody just pronounce that.
I will.
Okay, Denise.
Nafshecha.
Nafshecha. Mhm.
Nafshecha.
Don't make it she. It's sh, like you ate. Nafshecha.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
Next one.
Yomado.
What if I punched you in the stomach?
Madu. You Madu.
You would say, oh. And when the dot's in the middle, I used to go over to my Hebrew school, the 7th graders, and I give them a little shove in the stomach, and I say, now what do you say? You go, oh. I go, no, you got it. Okay.
What you Madu? What does that mean? Did you already tell us what that meant?
Yismechu. Yes, you will rejoice. Sameach. Simcha.
No, number 2.
Oh, Yilmadu. Okay. Lomaid means to learn.
Oh, okay.
Yilmadu, you will learn.
Okay.
There's Nancy. She's
Thank you.
connecting. Hello, Nancy. Where are you, Nancy? Yeah, Yilmadu. You see Lomaid. And the word for students in Hebrew, one of the words is studentim. It sounds like Russian. Hi, Nancy. But
Hi.
The word for students in Hebrew is talmidim. And you might have heard that in Brooklyn, there's a lot of Talmud Torahs. That's a yeshiva. Talmud Torah. Talmud means learning. So the Talmud is, it's all the oral law, all the oral learning. And it was compiled and put together in a written form. Okay, so Talmidim are students. Talmidah is a female student. Talmid is a male student. Okay, so we have Yilmadu, they will learn. And that's the second one. Who can do 3 and 4? Nancy, we're just saying these. We're learning that we're breaking these 2 shvas with a syllable. Look at the example at the top. Okay, Janice.
Yes, mehu.
Perfect. Yismechu, yismechu, Hashamayin. Okay, and that means will rejoice. They will rejoice. And 4?
Tish, meru.
Perfect. Okay, and it means you will you will list, you will guard, you will keep, like Tish at mitzvot, you will guard the commandments. Okay, Tish is from Shomer. Okay. Actually, it's you will. Okay, so Nancy, what we're doing, we're just pronouncing these. We learned that when there's two shvas together, and these words all have two shvas, one after another. The first one is, it's like twins, and this is how I taught my kids in Hebrew school. The first one is a quiet twin. The second one's a noisy one. So the first is a silent. So in that last example, that Janice did beautifully is Tish, that's the first syllable. The Shin, no sound. And then the UH, Maru. Tish, Maru. Okay. All right. So Nancy, you want to do 4 and 5? 5 and 6. Yeah, 5 and 6. Can you say them?
So it wouldn't be naf for the first syllable, or would it be?
First
Okay,
one is
naf.
always a quiet one.
Naf,
It's like a UH sound.
naf, shachim, shachem,
Right, nafshachem.
naf shachem, right.
Right, and we said that means your souls, nafshachem. Very good. And 6?
Tish, ma'u,
Perfect. Tishma'u. And do you see the root? What's the root in that?
is it, is that a tet? I never remember. Tet, shem,
In the middle. What's the root that's in the middle?
the shin, the mem, and the ayin.
Yeah. So what word is that? Famous word.
Oh, Shema.
Shema. That means you will listen. And as
Okay.
I said, in German, they also give you will, and they use a future for the command. You will listen. You will listen. Okay,
Mhm.
Tish. Oh. Okay, and 7 and 8. How about Francine?
T's Karu
Very good.
and Chazdecha.
Beautiful. So we said that Tiz Karu is from Zachor. Okay. It's you will remember, and Chasdecha is your compassion. Okay, from Chesed. All right.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we sang, I'm in the choir at my synagogue, and I think we sang a song that was titled Hazdecha. I just can't remember the tune. But I
Chasdecha,
remember, yeah,
what service was it from?
Rosh Hashanah.
Oh. Well, now you know that if you see that word is
Yeah,
Chasdecha.
yeah, I think that was one of the songs that we
Yeah,
sang.
I'm not familiar with that. All right, so
Chazdecha is,
No.
Hazdecha.
what is,
no, it's Chasdecha. If it would be
Right.
Chasdecha, it would have to have a segol. It would have to have the 3 dots.
okay, all right, and we, right,
Dots,
okay.
something.
And what does that mean? Because we hear that in prayers, Hazdecha,
Chasdecha,
yeah, don't we? No,
they're probably pronouncing it
wrong?
Yeah.
Okay,
because the Chasdecha means your compassion. And if you're talking to God, you would use that word because the Cha. Now, keeping in mind, as I said, that these endings for the divinity are masculine. And there are some women that take umbrage at this. They get, very upset. However, the prayers were written a long time ago. The prayer books were compiled before feminism was a thing. And I am sure that there are versions of all the prayers in a feminist Siddur. So if that's your pleasure, you can look online, and I'm sure you would find one that has everything with God in the feminine. Okay, that would kind of, however, you have memorized and you're familiar with a lot of the prayers, guess what it would do to you? It would knock your socks off. It would confuse you because they would be putting different, instead of saying Shema, Shimcha, they would say Shemech, and you would go, oh my God, I'd have to relearn everything. Okay, so.
Okay.
Next page. Okay, so it's more of the same, and it says read each word part That means syllable.
Oops.
Word, and they show you how to do it. Remember, doesn't matter what syllable that shva is in. If there are two and you break this syllable up that they're in, and it doesn't matter if it's in the third syllable, as long as it's the second one and the third, if they both have a shva, the first one is still quiet, the second one is still sounded. That's the way it goes. The rule does not change. So there's chas decha, and we separated the two shvas into two syllables, chas decha. The second, tiz karu. I want you to say these with me. Say, chas decha.
Chas decha, decha.
Again, chas decha.
Chas
Okay, the next one is tiz karu.
Tis
karu.
I want someone to do 3 for me. By the way, can you see what the root is? The 3-letter root in that one? It's one that we use all the time.
Oh, yes, Kodesh.
Kodesh, yeah. Kuf, Dalet, Shin, Kodesh. So what do you think this word means? Whose holiness?
God's.
Yeah. Okay, your holiness. Okay, so how would we, Francine, how would you say that word? Now remember, words having the root of Kodesh, that's going to be an or sound under the kuf.
So Kodesh.
Perfect. There you go. Kodesh. So don't make it harder than it has to be. Kodesh, your holiness. Okay.
So
So-
all the Kodesh words are call.
Right.
Okay.
No, not all, because like you have kedusha, but some,
Okay.
like in this case, it means your, like your holiness, kodesh. A lot of the prayer books now have either the kamatz is darker or it's in italics, or sometimes a little larger. So they clue you in on when to say it that way. It's not every time you see a kuf. Kodesh. Can somebody say the 4th one? You have 2 syllables there. We said it before. Charlene, you want to try it?
Okay. Nav shechem.
Ah, great. Naf shechem. And the chaf on the end is a ch, like the chet. Okay, naf shechem. The second syllable has a shin, sh. Okay, volunteer for 5. You've heard this word a lot. It's in V'ahavta.
B'shiv tacha.
Decha.
Right. B'shiv techa. Now, shevet. Hinei ma tohu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet, I think Francine's going to show us, there's some dance steps there. Okay. Lashevet. I would say to the students at the beginning of the class when it were like a bunch of wild hellions, Bavakasha lashevet. The second. Bavakasha lashevet the lasot sheket. So you hear all teachers yelling all the way down the hall. Sheket bavakasha. Quiet, please. Sheket. But lashevet means to sit. So shev is the root of sit. B'shiv techa. So we have 3 syllables. So what? B'shiv techa. So what happened here? We have 3 syllables. The b, we got that. That one is going to be sounded. It's in the beginning of the word. B. Then we have in the middle shiv. Well, the vet there, it's the end of the syllable. You have a shin and a vet. Shiv. So at the end of a syllable, it's quiet. And here we have the beginning of the syllable. Techa. B'shiv techa. And it says when you sit in your house and when you go on your way, you're supposed to say the Shema. Okay, so I guess you translate that in a modern idiom as you say the morning prayer when you're in your house or in the synagogue. Because we sing in Modeh Ani that it's, this is our house. And if you're traveling, if you've ever taken El Al, I've taken El Al to Israel, and the men when it's morning, all the religious men get up in the aisle and they say the morning Shema. So if you're on your way, okay, if you're sitting, b'shivtecha, and you're sitting, and they get up from their seats and they all daven. There was a place in New York going up to the mountains where I think it was on Route 17. It used to be, they called it the Big Apple. And there was a side of the rest stop. There was a big rest stop, and all the men would do their davening. Doesn't matter if it was the morning or the afternoon or the evening prayers. They would all by the side of that wall because it was facing east. So okay. So if you're sitting, wherever you're sitting, if you're sitting on a plane and it's time, you get up. Okay. I was at a shiva in Brooklyn, from Lubavitch. They were sitting and they were visiting the bereaved person. And then when it was time for minyan, they said to everybody, okay, guys, let's go. They didn't ask me. Okay. And they went to another room and then they did I think that was Menchha. Okay. So wherever you're sitting and it's time. That's it. It's like when a baby's coming. If it's time, it's time. You cannot do anything about it, With them, it's fixed. Okay. Now, the next word has the root of mishpacha. Mishpacha is like mishpacha. What is that?
Family.
Family. Okay. Ka is a prefix. It means like. Not liking, I like ice cream, but as or like. Okay. So we have 3 syllables. So we have a shva at the beginning of the syllable. Okay. That guy is going to be sounded. Ka. You know that a shva at the beginning of a syllable has a sound. Mish, that's the end of a syllable under the shin. P, that's the beginning of the syllable. Kamish pechot. Kamish pechot means like families. Like families. Kamish pechot. So that rule, the beginning of a word, you're going to hear the shva. The end of a syllable, it's quiet. Okay. How about the 7th one?
So you want us to say it?
Yeah, can somebody say it? Do we have a volunteer? Denise, go ahead.
Tush bechata.
Well, Tush,
Tush bechata.
Ata.
Tush b'chata.
Right.
And what I told you once before still stands. If that word ends in an aleph, it's from Aramaic.
Oh.
When students once said to me, Arabic, I said, no, it's not Arabic, it's Aramaic, an early form of Hebrew. And it has nothing to do with your tuchas. Tush bechata. Shabbat. I think that is from praise. Tush bechata. Yeah, like your praise. All right, so it's tush bechata. Tush bechata. Tush bechata. Tush bechata.
It's in Kaddish too.
Yeah. Again, you'll see all those words with the aleph in the Kaddish, right? Right, you are. Okay, the next one is not by shev, not by sitting, but this is when you're on your way. You're supposed to say the Shema at the appropriate time. Okay, somebody want to give this a whirl?
Uvlechtecha.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that's the first syllable. You see it at the end of the syllable. Okay, uv, lech. There's a shva again at the end. Uv, lech. I'm not hearing it. Beginning of the syllable, techa, uvlechtecha. And when you're on your way, it's in the viahavta. Uvlechtecha. Okay, and when you lech means go.
Mm.
All right, lechacha, go, like go. It's been said that lech lecha is like go into yourself, or go forth, lech lecha. Okay. Now, in this one, under the ayin, that would be or. Okay. And the root ayin vet dalet is work. La'avod. Okay, so we want to try this one. Remember at the shvat at the end of the syllable, it's quiet. The one at the beginning has a sound.
Ul of decha?
Okay, but under you see, it looks like a little darker. So it'll be ul of decha.
Of,
Ul, it's silent.
Right.
Of, silent.
oh, right, decha.
Decha. Ul of decha. Because they're showing you by making that kamatz darker that it's an or. Like the word for boat is onia. It's not ania, it's onia. But they're now showing it in the prayer books, so that you get the correct pronunciation. In number 10, under the shin, it's also an or sound, so that would be shaw.
Shach. Shach becha.
Shach. Uv shach becha. It's also in the Shema, and shachav is like when you're sleeping. Uv shach becha. When you're lying down, in other words, when you're going to bed. Uv shach becha. When you're going to bed, you'll say the Shema. It's called bedtime Shema. Their religious children say that at night before they go to bed. It's like sort of like the Christians say, now I lay me down to sleep, but they say the Shema. Okay. So, if you say it all the time, when you get to be an adult or a little older, it's memorized. It's like a childhood rhyme or a song that you love. Okay. If you say it all the time, I see people mouthing, I see people walking in the street and they're mouthing words, mostly to rap songs. They say it again and again and again. I don't know. I once said to someone, how can you remember? It doesn't make any sense, these songs. How can you remember all the lyrics? They practice it and practice it. Well, okay. Good for you. Okay. Now, I gave you a little more depth of philosophy here because the Amidah, the Shabbat Amidah has 7 blessings. The regular Amidah is also called the Shmona Esrei. Shmona is 8, but there's really 19 if you really count them and go through it. And the blessing formula is whenever the blessing, it ends with Baruch Atah Adonai. So that's how you can identify what a blessing. Oh, by the way, I gave you the wrong page. I'm sorry. In Sim Shalom, if you're looking at that, it's 432. That's where the Kedusha is. So the Kodesh is holy. And I read them over. I read them both. And this is the second bracha. And we say 7 blessings. Only during the week you have all of the 19 brachot. This Shabbat is a little shorter. So it's called the Kedusha and not for nothing. We have the Shema in some of them. We have angels singing. We're praising God. We're talking about generations being protected by God. I mean, it's got a lot of very important ideas in the Kedusha and like holiness, Kedusha, Kodesh. So I wanted to ask you this, and what does it mean to be a holy person? Any ideas on that? We are supposedly created in God's image. So it means we are supposed to be acting with those ethics and godlike. We're supposed to emulate that. We're not God and goddesses, but we're supposed to try to be holy. We're supposed to try to be mentioned. We're really supposed to be an example to people. I teach mainly in the morning when I teach for Bosius, I teach mainly Hispanic women, Latino women. I want to tell you, they respect the fact that I'm Jewish because I always tell them, well, if you're gonna make taquitos or some of these nice things they bring in, I said, I keep kosher. I cannot eat anything with pork in it. And I can't have with milk and meat. But they're very respectful. I went to one I'm very close with, and her daughter calls me abuelita, which means grandma. But she knows that I observe dietary rules. When I went to her house, she had fruit. She had she made empanadas, but she made them with cheese. She would ordinarily make them with meat, with pork. But for me, she made it special like that. So if you're proud of who you are, they will respect you. And I always tell them right off. And I think I told you, I brought my shofar to the classes and I blew it for them and I explained what it was. That came from an animal, the horn, and I brought them something sweet. And I told them the story about, sweet for studying. And I told them a short story about that. So they're fully aware of it. There's nothing to hide. So what would holy behavior in a person look like? Or good behavior, following the mitzvot? What?
Right.
Okay, and there in the beginning of the prayer book, there are some things which it kind of spells out a few of the mitzvot. But what would you do? Is there something that you do in your life? One of my Latina women said that on Thanksgiving, she lives in Mastic, which is kind of a poor area. And there were some poor people on the street, homeless. I was asking people about their Thanksgiving. She said she fed the homeless.
Mhm.
She started with one person and a bunch of people came around. She took food out, knowing that they wouldn't have a special dinner unless they went to a church or a shelter. That is feeding the hungry is a mitzvah, right? And we have the mitzvah of welcoming the stranger, which is based on Abraham and Sarah and their tent, which had the flaps open on all sides. So wherever you were coming from, you were greeted with hospitality. So we take those examples and we're supposed to follow them. So I suppose by extension, giving to a food bank
Mhm.
would be a wonderful thing to do, right? Okay, so can you think of anything else that's like a mitzvah in Judaism that we generally observe?
Visiting the sick or
Definitely visiting the sick is a mitzvah, and also burying the dead properly, giving kavod to the met. And there's another one that it says, they clothe the naked, but I would say giving clothes to one of the Vietnam vets or something like that, visiting the sick. And then it is a big mitzvah. There's one woman in our congregation who lost her husband, and after that she made a little vow to herself that when they call for opinion at somebody's house, she tries always to show up, because if you've ever asked for a minion and you see a whole bunch of your friends and even people you don't know come, it makes you feel like you really are part of a community.
Mhm.
So that is a big mitzvah, giving somebody the opportunity to say Kaddish for somebody that they lost. Okay, so these things are really, and I think, just personally, I think that if you really open your eyes and look around, there are many examples where you could do a mitzvah, a good deed. There's so many examples that you just have to be open to it, and it's little things. There's a woman I've known for years. Her son and my son are best friends. Her son lives further up the island. She walks with a walker, and it's hard for her to get around. She asked me once, could I find somebody who could take her garbage? She puts them in, plastic bags, and put it in her garbage outside her house and bring that bin to the curb, because she can't do it, because she can't manage the walking with her walker, and so she'd be off balance and she might fall. It's a very small thing. She said to me, can you find me somebody? I'm willing to pay $5 each week for them just to take the garbage to the curb. So I said, nonsense. I said, I'm not gonna look for somebody. I said, I'll do it. Well, what's the big thing? So on Thursdays, I go and I take the garbage. She meets me at her door. She has the garbage bags. I put them in her big pail and I just wheel it down to the curb. 5 minutes. Of course, then she wants to talk for half an hour, but but it's not a big deal, right? Anybody could do that.
Yep.
It didn't cost me any money, any inconvenience. It's like, so maybe half an hour out of my day. But those are the kinds of things that I mean, give somebody a ride to a meeting who doesn't drive at night. Those are things that are right in front of our faces. Okay, so we can all do things that make us godlike or holy. Now, in comparing the two versions, so I'm gonna, here I have my two versions. Okay, I have the Shabbat morning and I have the Shabbat Musa. Did they start out the same?
No.
A little bit different, right?
Mhm.
Okay, one starts with the caduceus Shemcha ba'olam, and the other Na'aritzecha v'na'adishecha kesosi al sharpei kodesh, and so forth. Okay. So they don't start out exactly the same. Now, then I had some questions here, and I said, one of them, in one, we actually say the Shema, that one line of the Shema. Which one stands out?
Musa.
Did you
Musa.
find it? Now, since it's so important, here's a little hint. It might be a little darker.
Yeah, it's in Musa.
That's correct. It's in the Musa. Okay, so you see right almost in the middle of the page, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And we say it, Shema Yisrael, whatever the melody they're using. There's different melodies that our can't use. One's is Komo hu yifen berachamim, and then it goes Yachonam ham yachadim shemo erev avoker bechol yom tamid it goes pamayim biava Shema Omerim, Shema Omer, and then it goes, then it stops, and then it goes Shema Yisrael. That's just a regular Shema melody. That sound familiar?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they say Shema just the way you would say it as a lone line. So that's in Musa. Okay. Then the next question: in which version do we refer to God by saying, "He is our Lord, He is our Father, He is our King, He is our Redeemer"? And then that goes, Eloheinu, Avinu, Malkeinu, Moshienu. And again, a lot of melodies. So which
That's
one is that?
It's also Musa.
Well, it's a Musaf, right after the Shema. If you look, it says the next line, Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu. There's all melodies. He is our Eloheinu. He is our God. Hu Avinu. He is our Father. You've heard in the Christian religion the Our Father prayer. Okay, He's our Father. Hu Malkeinu. He's our King.
Lord.
Hu Moshienu. He is our Redeemer. Okay, that's only in the Musa. Okay, question
I have
three.
to tell you that in the newer version, in the Sidur Lev Shalom, it doesn't have all the kings in it. It's not translated that way.
Oh, how is it translated? What
It
is it?
says, the Holy One is our God, our Creator, our Sovereign, our Redeemer. Yet again, God will in mercy proclaim to us before all that lives, I, Adonai, am your God.
But in the
In the Musaf Kedusha.
oh
on page
yeah, the
187.
Musaf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, there's modern translations. I'm
Yay.
glad.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I
Okay.
still like the things on the side better. The little side notes.
Yeah, in Lev Shalem.
Yeah.
Well, there are many more.
Right.
Sim Shalom is a straightforward Siddur. It
Right.
doesn't have all the notes and all the poems. There's
Right.
a lot of poems and notes and little philosophical things. I like that, especially I like it on the high holidays when you're there for a whole day. So I
Right.
have something to read in English when I get tired of just keep trying to drone on in Hebrew. Okay, my third question. Do both versions end with the words from generation to generation?
Yes.
And I gave you some vocabulary so you would know what the words are. So what's the expression? Look at the vocabulary that I gave you. What's the expression which is from generation to generation?
Lidor vador.
Okay, so we all know Lidor vador, Lidor vador. My cantor, they sing it so many times, you get like ad nauseum. They keep going again and again. Lidor vador, Lidor vador, Lidor vador, Nagid, God lecha. And if you look in the Lev Shalem, in the one that I gave you, the letter, the kamatz under the gimel, it looks different, doesn't it? In Lidor vador, God lecha, Lidor vador, Lidor vador, Lidor vador, Nagid, and it's not God lecha, it's God lecha.
Oh,
You see, but look carefully under the gimel, and it's darker and bigger. You see that? God lecha.
sort of.
Well, if you compare it to
Yeah.
the third line of that, where it says ki el melech gadol v'kadosh 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 ata. But you'll see in the word gadol, it's smaller and not as dark. But God lecha. So I'm saying this, the prayer books are helping us now on the pronunciation. All right, they both end like that. So why? What does it mean? What does Lador Vador mean?
From generation to generation.
Okay. So why are we talking about generation to generation? Does this mean we should continue with our children, teaching them our religion? Because we're depending, the next generation will preserve Jewish belief. So I think they both end like that. Lidor Vador Nagid God Lecha. From generation to generation, let us say your well, Nagid is talk about your greatness, and your holiness. You know, it will always be in front of us. He, because El Melech Gadol, El is God, King, because God is a great King and holy. You are a great and holy King. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el, the God, the holy God. And they're both exactly the same. And we sing that, I don't know how many times when we so if you look at those lines, they're exactly the same. Well, I guess the meaning here is that we have to transmit Yiddishkeit, Judaism. It doesn't end when we die. And that's why there's such a great emphasis on Jewish education. And it was Dalai Lama came to speak to a rabbi once, and he said, what is the secret of your, because he was afraid that his religion was going to die out. What is the secret of Judaism? How come it has remained for such a long time? Okay, so the rabbi said, what do you think the rabbi told him?
Lidor vador.
Well, what we do from generation to generation. Have you ever gone to a large Passover Seder? There's the grandma and the grandpa and the aunts and the uncles. The family preserves it by our customs and by our history. And to be bar mitzvah, you have to have a Jewish education, boy and girl now. So education is, and that's what he said, the education is one of the keys, and practice, education and practice. But we have to think forward. We have to go forward. You can't just, the old fogies. So it's very important, like my family, my daughter has 5 kids, and they're Lubavitch. Those kids know their stuff because they live it. They live it. They really do. That's their everyday life, you know?
I had a Torah study partner who is Orthodox. She lives up in Far Rockaway. She's younger. She's only 28 years old. We got hooked up with Partners in Torah. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And every week we meet and we study parts of the Torah. I get my Tanakh out and she reads the Hebrew while I do the English. And we've studied all kinds of different things. But I can tell you, you're right. She went to a yeshiva. She knows it inside and out. I have learned so much from her. She's really very interesting.
What is this called, this program?
It's called Partners in Torah. And you put your name in and they match you up with somebody else who, in other words, we get to study Torah together. And I really have learned a lot.
So I was invited to join a group in my synagogue of some friends. We're now 5 couples, so there's 10 of us, and we meet once a month and we decide, what the parsha is that we're going to study. So it's my turn this Sunday. So I shipped out a few days ago. I spent a couple of hours, going fine tooth combing the Torah parsha. We're doing Vayetze, where Jacob gets all the speckled goats and the dark sheep, and then he leaves Lavan. And it's also about the older sister Leah, Lavan being deceived by Jacob. A whole bunch of deceptions, and he gets Leah, and then he gets Rachel afterwards. And I've asked, so I made up the questions, and they're coming to my house and I'll have refreshments, but we'll study for a couple of hours, study the parsha. We do it once a month. And everybody has a different perspective. So I made up the questions. And one of the things I asked was, why is it that Leah always comes at the end? They say God of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. It's the Friday night blessing. She's always at the end. And in the Amidah, when you do with the matriarchs, Leah always comes at the end. And I say, so why is that? She gave 6 sons and the daughter Dinah to Jacob. So that was so important in biblical times. She was the mother of 7 children, 6 being the tribes. And Rachel had 2, Benjamin and Joseph. So I did ask my rabbi. Yeah, and you know what he told me? He said that in the Reform, I have to ask my daughter-in-law, who's a Reform cantor, in the Reform prayer book, Leah comes before Rachel. Rachel's at the end. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
He said that's the Reform prayer book. And so then I said to him, so why is Rachel always before Leah in the conservative prayer book? And he said he guesses that her 2 children were more significant in the following stories because, you have Joseph and the Technicolor Dream Code, and you have Benjamin, the beloved baby of the family. So he said that's probably why. So it wasn't the quantity of sons, it was the importance of them in the story, because the story is all about them. So I thought that was an interesting a little learning. I didn't know that there was any place that that Leah came first, but she's always. And when I looked at the Hebrew, one of the things in the Hebrew, the translation says that Leah was unloved. That's a translation, but that's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew uses the word snu'ah. Snu'ah means hated, like minus son.
She
It actually
was
says
hated by Rachel. I mean, Rachel didn't like her.
no. It said, but it said that she was unloved by Jacob, but instead of unloved, in that sentence, it says hated. Now it could be, and I read a commentary, that she reminded Jacob of the fact that he was a deceiver, also that he deceived his father and stole the blessing from Esau. He stole the blessing of the firstborn. And Leah, she reminds him of the fact that Lavan deceived him by giving him Leah and then Rachel. So, like when you see somebody, they remind you of that's a bad thing. But the text says hated in Hebrew.
But he had a lot of children with this woman he
Yeah.
hated.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Really,
well,
I hate to see if he loved her.
Right.
so, and they keep translating it as weak eyes, and it doesn't say anything else about it. So weak eyes, or what does that mean? Her eyes were small, or she couldn't see well, or I don't know what weak eyes means. Or that might be a euphemism for not very pretty. That they go to lengths to describe how beautiful Rachel was. Anyway, it's so it's very interesting, the whole episode of the Mandrakes. The Mandrakes were love apples. They were known. This is a flower, and they were known to be a was it when it makes you fall in love with somebody?
Aphrodisiac.
An aphrodisiac, and also a narcotic. So it knocks you out, and then okay, take me, I'm yours. So the whole episode with the Mandrakes is that Leah's son Reuben finds these flowers in the field when he's out with wheat, and he finds them growing there wild, and he brings them to his mother Leah. And Rachel says, who had no children at that time, she says, "Sell me your mandrakes." So Leah gets a good bargain. She says, "Oh, you're going to take them from me? Are you going to take taking my husband? He sleeps with you." So that was the deal. She gave Leah the aphrodisiac. She gave Rachel the aphrodisiac, and Leah gets to sleep with Jacob. She sells her husband a conjugal visit. She sells a conjugal visit to Leah. And then she conceives and has 2 boys and a girl after that. So I guess it was more than one visit. Anyway, biblical times, crazy.
They're not the Bible stories that the kids get, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I guess if you're writing a book for kids, it's
Has to be cleaned up.
cleaned up a little bit, yeah. What about the rape of Dinah and all that stuff?
Right.
Okay. So, generation to generation. And now, this is important. What 2 words? There are many, many words for God. We know Elohim, we know Adonai, we know Hashem. Okay, but the Hebrew word makom, as I told you, it means place. What is this place I have come to? Makom is also another word for God. Like God is the place, wherever you are. So that is important to know. And then
Where is it in one of the Musa services, Makom?
let's see, Mikomo, that's a word that they use a lot. Let's see if I can find Makom. Here, in the Musa, Kedusha,
Okay. Mhm.
in the 3rd paragraph, it starts with Mim Komo.
Oh, right. Okay.
Komo, Yipen Berachamim, that. So from the, and there's Makomo, from his place.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
From his place, wherever from his dwelling, he, meaning God, Yipen, turns with compassion
Mhm.
towards us from wherever he is. Okay, so there it's used. And all right, there's other words too. Okay, so if you asked a kid, how do you conceive of God? If you asked a child or even a teenager, they're not so sophisticated as they think they are. What do you think they would say? What is your image of God? What would they say? Well, what is a common?
An old
they-
man with a long beard up above.
Right, and where is he? He's sitting
Right, in heaven.
in a big chair.
Yeah.
And so here we have seraphim, the angels, those are like the highest order of angels, and they're hovering over God in one of these. Okay, so this gives you that image there of angels hovering and angels speaking for God and with God. Don't forget, on earth, the angels come down, and even in Jacob's ladder, the angels speak to Jacob, and then, in dreams, angels do speaking on behalf of God. They're the messengers. And that happens a lot. So they have a very important, how about that? Maybe in the next parsha where Jacob struggles with the angel and his name changed to Yisrael and his hip gets wounded, his yerech. So he struggled with was it a man, was it an angel, and then he limps after that, and his name is changed to Yisrael, one who has struggled with God. El was God. So I don't know, do you have any vision of God, what God might look like?
I used to tell my kids that God was like the force in the Star Wars movie.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you, and you have to
Yes.
trust that the force is with you.
Right, and of course, that's an intangible thing and a non-seeable thing. It's just a feeling, an intuition, right? And it's hard to explain, I would imagine, to young children. That's a good explanation of what God is. So I think you wouldn't mislead them by asking, what do you think God looks like? That's a misleading question that I gave you.
Mhm.
Okay, but I don't think any of us sees a man up in heaven with a beard and angels with wings flying around. I told you, I think that I travel with guardian angels. And if I'm a good girl and do what I should do, they'll be with me. And if I don't, I think, goodbye, angels. I think a lot of Jewish prayer gives you a feeling of security. At the end, we haven't gone into this too much, but we sing Adon Olam at the end of Shabbat. And it says, the last line, when you translate it, it's like, I've got your back, the very last thing. And then it says, Adonai li, below, God is I am not afraid. I will not be afraid. God is with me. I am not afraid. And you have that. And then the very last line is, I don't have it in front of me, but it's kind of, it has the word gavi. Gav is your back. So it's like the last thing you hear before you leave is, I've got your back. And that to me is very comforting. Something, some being, somebody is connected to me somehow. And it's kind of like watching over me.
It ends in the Lev Shalom, God is with me, I have no fear. That's how
Right.
they
I don't I
translate
leave a note below, what's the word for fear?
Ikra, no.
Below
Below
Yeah.
Ikra. I don't I leave below Ikra. Yeah, so there you go. God is with me and I have no fear. And that's what we're left with at the very end of, after all that praying and Torah and singing. So I think that's kind of comforting. And I think the purpose of the prayers is as comfort and I feel that way. And I like going to services. I have a big Torah reading tomorrow. When I get off, it's 14 lines and that's a lot. But let's
Wow.
just take a quick look at some of these words. And you know that in Jewish prayer, these words repeat. You'll see them come at you again and again. So we have Ze El Ze, and the angels are repeating to one another. They're singing. The seraphim are, and I looked it up actually in the dictionary, it said angels hovering over God. And it said that they were like the first class of angels. These are like the really good ones. Favorite angels. Okay. So mechakim, and we are waiting for redemption, mechakim. The first redemption was supposed to be getting out of Egypt. This second redemption is supposed to be when the Messiah comes. So if you believe in a coming of the Messiah, that's another redemption. Ledor vador, ledor, from generation to generation, ador. Panim, pay is your mouth, plural panim. It's also used for face. It's not the word for cheek, but pay is your mouth. A mouth is part of your face. I used to call my dog Panim Yafot, and the word for face, it's plural. Punim is a punim.
Oh, yeah.
and nice, such a nice face. So I translated that from Yiddish to Hebrew, and I called my daughter, so Panim Yafot. A cute face. All right, so we have El is God, El, Elohim, Aye. Aye is where? That's modern Hebrew, Aye. Berachamim with compassion. Erev, Erev Avoker, evening and morning. And I guess it says evening first because the days begin at night. I never thought of that before, but now I am. And so, but you'll see those words again and again. Why don't we try to read a little? Oh, it's 2:30. Well, why don't you practice reading? Why don't each of you pick one section, one like little paragraph of 3 or 4 lines, and come back, and we'll start next week where you can show off a little bit how nicely you can read that. And when you go to synagogue, you probably sing it. You could read it or sing it. Like the Na'aritzacha, some people say that so fast. They say it so fast, and you can't, but that goes Na'aritzacha v'nagdishecha kisosi sarfei kodesh, and it repeats Hamakdishim Shimcha b'kodesh kakatuv al yad neviecha. And then we do the Kara Zeh El Zeh, and then the angels are singing, and the angels shouted to one another, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, Mulo, call, Haaretz Kivodo. The land, the earth is Mulo, filled with his greatness, Kavod.
Carol, I won't be here
Yeah.
next week.
Okay. Okay, fine. Well, everybody's got now the holidays are coming. Our last session, so that we don't go into, holidays and traveling, will be the 15th. So we have next week, we have 2 more classes. If I don't know when the new semester begins, if you want to continue and have a few classes in January, Marcus is willing. I'm willing to, to do that, and anything that we haven't covered yet that you'd still like to do. So you guys can read Lador Vador?
Yeah.
Okay, can anyone read it to finish up? Just read it or sing it. Anybody want to do that?
The door vador nagid godlecha. Ula netzach netzachim kedushatecha
Kedushatcha.
shatcha na dush
Dish.
dush
Dish.
not. I have to sing it.
You want to sing it?
No, I mean, I do. Singing on Zoom is the worst.
Okay. What's the second line?
Oh, I have to keep going.
Anyone want to jump in with the
yeah.
second line? Yeah, the 2 little dots on the side of the head, that's not a shva. The shva is directly in the middle underneath. Okay, B'shiv chacha Eloheinu.
Eloheinu miknu lo. What is that?
Mipinu lo.
Oh, mipinu, right? Mipinu lo.
Yeah.
Yom. Oh, yom ush.
Yeah. Yamush.
Yam ush.
Whoosh, like a sled dog. Le'olam va'ed. Ki el-melech gadol, gadol v'kadosh, v'kadosh, v'kadosh ata. And then they just go, and then again it says Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Okay, so take one little section, anyone that you want, and I don't care which Amidah it's from. It could be from the morning or from the Musa. And just, that's your assignment. If you're going to be here next week or not, just learn one block of one section of the Amidah that you will know. That's mine, and I can say it. When they get to that, I can say that one. And try to work on it fluently.
Mhm.
Okay, if it's you have to sing it, then see if you can sing it fluently. But don't just sing it. Don't give me one of these for Richard Sands.
Oh.
For Richard Sands, and kids say one nation under God for Richard Sands.
Right.
Okay, so you really have to be looking at it, not just doing it from memory. That's you have to be looking at the words. Okay,
Okay.
so
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry I was
Shalom,
late.
everybody.
I'm
Shalom,
sorry I was
shalom.
late.
is there
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
anything before we anything that you want to give me an assignment to prepare?
Will you just send us a reminder a few days before that we're supposed to
Yes,
section?
yeah,
Thank you.
I will. And is there any particular prayer you really want me to, because we've done a lot. And or any of the Friday night at home blessings or whatever. I think that's really important that that's why I keep asking about that, the blessing of the children, and washing hands and challah and wine. I mean, just the home ritual. Again, the home ritual is important.
Mhm.
Because that's something, the candlelighting, that's something that is easy to transfer to kids.
Mhm.
Because
Right.
you're doing something. It's not, it's tangible.
Right.
Like I said, we put hands on each other's head for the last part, Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha, and so forth. And when my son is here, and if his friend is here, we include him. I put my hand on his head too and bless him. And if anyone has children, if I have friends and they say, and they want to bless their children, and we say their children. If anybody's sick, we wish a refuah shlema to anybody sick. And always wish the best for the United States and Israel.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and think about those poor Ukrainian people.
Right.
All right, I'll see if there's something that I haven't done that we should do. Okay,
Okay.
all right,
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom,
Shabbat
y'all.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.